Today we're diving into Ami, Child of the Stars, a remarkable book published in 1986 by Chilean author Enrique Barrios. This isn't just another science fiction novel, it's part of a trilogy that includes Ami Returns and Ami Internal Civilization. While marketed as children's literature, readers quickly discover something far more profound hidden within its pages. The story follows an extraterrestrial being named Ami, who takes a 10-year-old Earth boy named Pedro on an extraordinary cosmic journey. On the surface it reads like a simple adventure tale, but the book itself claims to be something more. A genuine account of universal truths transmitted through the mind of a child. According to the narrative, Ami specifically chose to have these experiences recorded as a children's book, believing that adults would dismiss such ideas as fantasy or fraud, while a child's voice would slip past our skeptical defenses. The book has achieved cult status worldwide, translated into multiple languages, with readers debating whether it's pure fiction or contains hidden truths about our universe. Regardless of its origins, the philosophical concepts within have resonated with millions. Let's explore this cosmic tale and the profound ideas it presents. Our story begins on the Chilean coast, where young Pedro spends his vacation at his grandmother's seaside house. Each day, he wanders the beach alone, lost in the simple pleasures of childhood, collecting shells, watching the waves, breathing in the salt air. One evening, as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, something extraordinary happens. A brilliant red light streaks across the sky, silent and swift, plunging into the ocean without making a single sound. No splash, no disturbance, just gone. Pedro stands frozen, his mind racing. What was that, a meteor? A falling star? But before he can make sense of it, he sees movement in the water. Someone is swimming toward shore from the exact spot where the light disappeared. His first thought is that a plane has crashed, and he's about to witness the rescue of a pilot. But as the figure emerges from the waves, Pedro's assumptions shatter. This is no adult pilot in a flight suit. It's a child, or at least someone who appears to be a child, dressed in strange white clothing unlike anything he's seen before. The boy looks even younger than Pedro himself, yet there's something unusual about his demeanor, something that doesn't quite match his youthful appearance. The two children stand facing each other on the beach as twilight deepens around them. The stranger speaks first, and to Pedro's surprise, he speaks perfect Spanish. They begin to talk, the way children do, but the conversation quickly takes an unexpected turn. The strange boy doesn't immediately announce his origins. Instead, he approaches the topic carefully, almost playfully. Do you believe in extraterrestrials? He asks. Pedro considers this. Sure, he's seen movies and TV shows about aliens. Are you an extraterrestrial? He ventures. If I were, would you be afraid? It's a gentle way of testing the waters, and Pedro appreciates it. He looks at this boy who seems so normal. Same basic shape, same way of speaking, nothing obviously alien about him. Why would he be afraid? But doubt lingers. After all, he watched this person swim from where the light fell. That's hardly proof of alien origin. Pedro remains skeptical, until the boy demonstrates something impossible. The stranger, who asks to be called Ami, Spanish for friend, reveals that he can read minds. He proves it by telling Pedro exactly what he's thinking. Then come the devices, small advanced pieces of technology that clearly don't belong to any Earth manufacturer. One device functions like a television, but can show any place on Earth in real time, like having an all-seeing eye that can be directed anywhere at will. As Ami demonstrates these capabilities, Pedro's skepticism crumbles. This is real, he's actually talking to someone from another world. Once Pedro accepts Ami's true nature, the real education begins. Ami starts sharing information about the cosmos that challenges everything the boy thought he knew. The universe is teeming with life, Ami explains. Just in our galaxy alone, there are hundreds of thousands of civilizations, and we're not as different as you might think. Pedro imagines the creatures from science fiction, tentacled monsters, bizarre life forms with incomprehensible anatomy. But Ami corrects this misconception. Most intelligent beings have a similar basic structure: a head, a body, arms, and legs. The numbers might vary. Some have different numbers of fingers, different numbers of limbs, but the basic template is consistent. Think about Earth's animals. Don't they all have heads, bodies, and limbs? Just in different configurations and quantities. Ami's own appearance makes sense now. His species simply happens to look like human children, even though Ami himself is hundreds of years old. It's just how his people look. But Pedro has watched enough science fiction to be wary. Are you a good person? He asks. In the movies, aliens always come to invade Earth. Ami laughs at this. There are no evil civilizations traveling through space. At least I'm certainly better than many humans because you're from Earth. This statement puzzles Pedro. Surely in a universe so vast with so many civilizations, at least a few must be malevolent. But Ami explains a fundamental principle of cosmic evolution. Any evil civilization destroys itself before it can develop interstellar travel. You see, the technology to create destructive weapons, nuclear bombs, biological weapons, and worse, develops much faster than the technology for faster-than-light travel. So if a civilization is fundamentally evil, if its people are violent and untrustworthy toward each other, they'll use those weapons on themselves before they ever figure out how to leave their planet. They self-destruct through internal conflict. Evil civilizations can't achieve unity, Ami continues. They can't trust each other enough to work together on the massive projects required for space travel. Suspicion and betrayal tear them apart from within. So any civilization capable of reaching Earth has already passed beyond that stage of development. They've learned to cooperate, to value life, to control their destructive impulses. Anyone who can travel here is, by definition, not coming to conquer. Pedro pushes back. But surely in such a vast universe there must be exceptions, some evil civilization that survived by chance. There are no coincidences in the universe, Ami responds firmly. Everything is connected. What you call coincidence is simply your inability to see the underlying connections between events. The universe operates on cause and effect, on fundamental laws that apply everywhere. There is no such thing as random luck or chance occurrence, only patterns you don't yet understand. This leads to a deeper question: why do evil civilizations exist at all? If the universe has laws, why does it permit the development of destructive societies? Ami explains that every civilization begins in a similar state, neither good nor evil, but primitive and developing. As they evolve, two critical factors determine their fate: technological advancement and spiritual consciousness. If these two progress in balance, the civilization thrives and grows. But if technology races ahead while consciousness lags behind, disaster follows. Imagine giving immense power to a fool, or worse, to someone with a cruel heart. That civilization will use its technology to destroy itself. Conversely, if consciousness develops while technology stagnates, you get a civilization of kind, well-meaning people who remain forever trapped on their home planet. They're good, but they can't progress beyond a certain point. They're gentle but limited. The ideal path is balanced growth, advancing technology while simultaneously elevating consciousness and wisdom. When both rise together, harmoniously, that civilization becomes stronger, wiser, and capable of joining the greater cosmic community. Pedro mentions that movies and TV shows always depict aliens as terrifying monsters who want to destroy humanity. Ami shakes his head. Those images come from humanity's own inner darkness projected outward. You create these nightmarish visions of aliens because you're unconsciously expressing your own capacity for violence and cruelty. Real advanced civilizations aren't like that at all. Evil is primitive. It's what you see in Earth's predator animals. They kill each other because they lack higher intelligence. Truly intelligent beings don't murder each other. But if they somehow retained violent tendencies despite developing intelligence, they would inevitably destroy themselves. So where does Earth rank? Pedro asks nervously. Are we the worst civilization in the galaxy? Not the worst, Ami says carefully. But you're definitely in the bottom tier, probably second from the bottom in terms of spiritual development. Your technological development is relatively advanced, which makes the situation more dangerous. You have powerful weapons but a low level of consciousness. That's the critical problem. That's actually why I'm here, Ami adds. To help in whatever small way I can. Pedro immediately suggests that Ami should contact world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, the United Nations. Tell them to stop fighting, tell them we're not alone. But Ami explains why direct intervention is forbidden, listing 4 critical reasons. First, if we appeared openly before the masses, many people would die from shock. Not because we look terrifying, I look like a child after all, but because learning with certainty that advanced alien life exists would shatter many people's worldviews. The psychological trauma would be devastating, people would panic, religious beliefs would be challenged, and society would destabilize. Second, we need to protect ourselves. Despite our good intentions, humans are still quite violent. If we revealed ourselves, some of your people would try to attack us, capture us, dissect us. Your governments would see us as threats or as resources to be exploited. Third, even if we contacted your leaders, do you really think they would listen? Do you think they would immediately lay down their weapons and change their ways just because an alien told them to? Most would be skeptical. Those who believed might try to use our existence for their own political gain. It wouldn't bring peace, it would create new conflicts. But the 4th reason is the most important. We are forbidden by cosmic law from interfering with a civilization's natural development. Every civilization must determine its own destiny. We can only assist, guide, and gently influence. Direct interference would rob humanity of the lessons it needs to learn. It would be like doing someone's homework for them. They might get the right answers, but they wouldn't truly understand the concepts. Interference itself is dangerous, Ami stresses. Even well-intentioned help can have negative consequences if imposed from outside. Your civilization must evolve through its own choices, its own mistakes, its own growth. But you're not completely hands-off, Pedro observes. You said you're here to help. We provide subtle assistance, Ami confirms. For example, we've been showing ourselves to humanity for years. UFO sightings, appearances near nuclear facilities, mysterious lights in the sky. These are intentional. We want you to know on some level that you're not alone in the universe. During your atomic bomb tests, during the Chernobyl disaster, UFOs were frequently spotted nearby. This was deliberate. A message that you're being watched, that your actions have consequences. We also send mental transmissions, telepathic messages to certain receptive individuals on Earth. Not everyone can receive these transmissions. It requires a high level of spiritual development. Those who do receive them interpret the messages differently. Some think they've had prophetic dreams. Some believe they've received divine revelation. Some recognize it as contact with extraterrestrials, but find no one will believe them. We simply keep broadcasting these messages, hoping they'll influence humanity's development in positive ways. We won't reveal ourselves openly until humanity reaches a certain threshold. When you've achieved sufficient consciousness that we're no longer a threat to you, and you're no longer a threat to us or yourselves. Only when humanity has evolved beyond the danger of self-destruction will we make formal contact. Pedro frowns. But you're appearing to me. Doesn't that violate your own rules? I'm making contact with you for a specific purpose, Ami explains. I'm here so you can write this book. I'm sharing universal truths with you so you can share them with others. But this kind of individual contact doesn't count as interference. Interference means intervening in your governments, your wars, your societal structures. Telling one person the truth and asking them to share it through a book isn't the same as forcing change on your civilization. And the book must be written as children's literature, Ami emphasizes. If an adult wrote this, people would think they were either crazy or a fraud. They'd assume the author had ulterior motives. But a child writing these ideas? People will dismiss it as imagination, as fantasy, and that's exactly what we want. The message will reach those ready to hear it, while others can safely ignore it without feeling threatened. It's the perfect method of subtle influence. As their conversation stretches into the night, Ami offers to take Pedro home. They walk together through the darkness until they encounter two police officers who immediately become suspicious of two young boys wandering alone so late. The officers approach with the weary skepticism of men who've seen too much. "What are you two doing out here?" Ami, with complete innocence, replies, "We're discussing the potential destruction of Earth." The officers exchange glances. One smirks. "Is that so? And where are you from, kid?" "From another planet," Ami says matter-of-factly. "Oh, Mars?" "No, a different planet." "And where's your spaceship?" "In the ocean." The officers chuckle, amused by what they assume is children's fantasy. "Right. Well, you two need to head home. It's late." But before they can leave, Ami does something extraordinary. He somehow hypnotizes both officers, then erases their memories of the encounter. The policemen simply turn and walk away, having forgotten they ever saw the boys. Pedro is amazed and a bit disturbed. "That's incredible, but have you been doing that to me?" "You've been under a form of influence this whole time," Ami admits. "All humans are, actually. In a sense, humanity has always been influenced by forces beyond your immediate awareness." This cryptic statement hangs in the air, but Ami doesn't elaborate further. When they reach Pedro's grandmother's house, the boy faces a choice. Ami mentions he needs to travel to other locations, other planets even. Pedro, consumed by curiosity and wonder, begs to come along. Ami considers, then agrees, but only for tonight. They walk to the beach where Ami's spacecraft waits beneath the waves. The vessel rises from the ocean, and they board it. What follows is a whirlwind tour that begins on Earth itself. They fly over Africa, then to the Himalayas, visiting various locations around the globe. The ship moves with impossible speed and silence. During this journey, Ami receives a communication from his superiors. He has a mission to complete. Following these orders, they fly to Alaska, hovering above a lone hunter in the wilderness. Ami maneuvers the craft to create a specific pattern in the sky above the man, then projects a light. The hunter notices, staring up in amazement. "What are you doing?" Pedro asks. "Following orders. I'm supposed to show our craft to this specific person. But why him?" "I don't know. My superiors give me instructions and I follow them. They tell me where to go, who to reveal ourselves to. The reasons are beyond my understanding. I'm just doing my assigned task." This is when Ami introduces a device called the Love Measurement Instrument. He points it at the hunter and reads the display. "This person has a love index of 725, Ami announces. "What does that mean?" "It measures a being's level of spiritual consciousness, essentially their capacity for love. The higher the number, the more evolved the consciousness." "What's your number?" Pedro asks eagerly. "I'm at 766. That's not much higher. So there are humans more evolved than you?" "Absolutely. Many humans score higher than me. Some doctors, spiritual teachers, certain artists, some have even reached 800. Humans generally range from 300 to 800. This information fascinates Pedro. It means that being an alien doesn't automatically make someone spiritually superior. There are humans more evolved than some extraterrestrials. Ami explains that different civilizations have different average consciousness levels. Humanity averages around 500 to 550, while Ami's civilization averages around 700, only modestly higher. But there are other beings in the universe with measurements in the thousands, even tens of thousands. The beings who inhabit the sun have consciousness levels around 10,000 or higher, Ami reveals. They're incredibly advanced, essentially pure consciousness. Their high spiritual vibration causes them to emit light, which is why the sun glows. They're not living in the sun the way you'd imagine. They exist at a completely different dimensional frequency. "Why don't they visit us?" Pedro asks. "The dimensional difference is too great. We can't reach them and they can't easily reach us. We exist at frequencies too far apart. Sometimes higher beings can lower their frequency to communicate with lower beings, and that communication helps the lower beings evolve. But there are limits. Beings at vastly different frequencies simply can't interact directly." Pedro processes this. "What about the scientist back on Earth? My uncle is a physicist working on laser weapons. He's really smart. I admire him. What's his score?" "Anyone working on weapons of destruction can't have a high score," Ami says gently. "No matter how intelligent they are technically, their spiritual consciousness is low if they're using their intelligence to create tools for killing. Scientific brilliance doesn't equal spiritual wisdom. Many of your civilization's most celebrated scientists have relatively low consciousness levels because they use their gifts for destructive purposes. So Earth's values are backwards," Pedro realizes. "We admire people we shouldn't. Often, yes. True worth isn't measured by intelligence alone, but by how that intelligence is used and by the consciousness and compassion behind it." "What's my score?" Pedro asks hopefully. Ami smiles but doesn't answer directly. "I can't tell you. If I told you it was high, you'd become proud and arrogant, which would harm your spiritual development. If I told you it was low, you'd become discouraged and give up trying to improve. Either way, knowing would hurt your growth." After completing his assignment in Alaska, Ami takes Pedro to another world entirely, a planet called Ophir. This journey reveals one of the story's most profound revelations. The people of Ophir are descended from Earth, Ami explains during the flight. Thousands of years ago, Earth had a highly advanced civilization concentrated on a single continent, with smaller populations scattered elsewhere. This civilization achieved remarkable technological advancement, in some ways more advanced than modern Earth. but their spiritual development was even lower than yours today, about 100 points lower on the consciousness scale.
What happened to them?
They destroyed themselves through warfare. With such advanced technology and such low consciousness, conflict was inevitable. The wars were catastrophic. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, environmental destruction, they nearly rendered Earth uninhabitable. But some survived? Yes. Before the final destruction, some individuals recognized what was coming and fled to remote areas, becoming the ancestors of your current civilization. But others, specifically those with consciousness levels above 700, were rescued by us. We evacuated them and resettled them on Ophir. So the people there are our ancestors? In a sense. They're the same species as you, same genetic heritage. But they've had thousands of years to continue their evolution in a peaceful environment. They've become what humanity could become, given time and the right choices. As they approach Ophir, Pedro is struck by its beauty. The planet looks like an elaborate Japanese garden on a planetary scale. Flowing water features, carefully arranged vegetation, harmonious landscapes. But unlike Earth's gardens, Ophir's plants come in colors rarely seen at home. Emerald green, brilliant blue, deep purple, even pure white vegetation. Scattered across these gardens are pyramids, thousands of them, gleaming structures identical in basic form to Egypt's pyramids, but maintained in perfect condition, their surfaces bright and clean. The pyramids serve as manufacturing and distribution centers, Amy explains. But we can't land. You're carrying microorganisms from Earth, bacteria and viruses that don't exist here. The people of Ophir have no immunity to Earth diseases. If you infected them, millions could die. So they observe from the ship, and what Pedro sees amazes him. The inhabitants of Ophir are giants, averaging about 3 meters tall, with golden skin, pointed ears, and elongated heads. They wear white robes belted with colorful sashes, and they move through their garden world with serene grace. Why are they so tall? Pedro asks. They're the natural size of your species, Amy explains. Your ancestors were also giants. But as Earth's population concentrated in cities, as you created more crowded and stressful environments, your bodies adapted by becoming smaller. The compression of living in dense urban settings literally compressed your physical forms over generations. If humanity returned to living naturally, spread out across the planet in smaller communities, your descendants would gradually return to this larger size. They look like the people in ancient drawings, Pedro observes. Like ancient Egyptians or the Mayans or... Exactly. Those ancient civilizations were founded by survivors of the Great Destruction, people who retained some knowledge of the lost civilization. The art and architecture they created were attempts to recreate what their ancestors had known. The pointed heads, the golden skin, the pyramids, all memories of what came before. And Atlantis? The lost civilization I described was indeed what your legends call Atlantis. The name has survived through the millennia, though the true history has been garbled and mythologized. From their safe vantage point in the ship, Ami describes daily life on Ophir, and Pedro struggles to comprehend a world so different from his own. There is no money, Ami begins. No private property in the way you understand it. Everything is shared, managed by a central artificial intelligence that ensures fair distribution of resources. If you need something, you simply go to the appropriate pyramid, the manufacturing center, and request it. The system determines whether your need is genuine and provides accordingly. But what about work? Don't people need jobs? In the sense you mean, no. There are no employers or employees. People contribute to society based on their interests and abilities. Some focus on learning, some create art, some teach others, some help with community projects. But it's all voluntary, driven by genuine desire to improve oneself and assist others, not by economic necessity. Don't people get lazy without needing to work? Why would they? When basic needs are met, when there's no struggle for survival, people naturally pursue growth and contribution. The desire to learn, to create, to help others, these are fundamental to intelligent beings once fear and scarcity are removed from the equation. Pedro thinks about this. On Earth, competition drives everything. Competition for resources, for status, for success. But without competition, how do they improve? Competition is a primitive concept born from scarcity. On Ophir, there's no competition, no concept of winning or losing, no race to be better than your neighbor. Instead, there's personal growth. You don't compare yourself to others. You compare yourself to who you were yesterday. The goal is self-improvement, not superiority. They have no concept of success? Not as you define it. Success to them means becoming more conscious, more loving, more in tune with universal truths. It's not about accumulating wealth or defeating rivals. And everyone is vegetarian? All intelligent beings on Ophir eat only plant-based foods. The animals there also eat only plants. No creature kills another for food. The idea of consuming another sentient being is abhorrent to them. Pedro thinks about hamburgers and chicken dinners, feeling slightly uncomfortable. What about marriage, family? They form pair bonds, usually lasting many decades or even centuries given their long lifespans. These bonds are based purely on love and compatibility. There are no legal contracts, no property concerns, no economic reasons for partnership. If two beings love each other, they stay together. If that love fades naturally, they separate without conflict. There are no custody battles because children are understood to be autonomous individuals, not property. There are no divorces because there are no marriages in your legal sense. Just committed relationships based on genuine affection. And crime, laws? They have only one law, the fundamental law of the universe, which we'll discuss more deeply soon. Beyond that, they need no legal system. When consciousness is sufficiently developed, harmful behavior simply doesn't occur. You don't need laws against murder when no one wants to murder. You don't need laws against theft when everything is shared and abundant. but surely someone occasionally does something wrong? Mistakes happen, misunderstandings occur, but malicious behavior? No. And when mistakes do happen, they're addressed through communication and understanding, not punishment. The goal is always to heal and educate, never to harm or imprison. What about their spaceships? Are those shared too? Yes. Spacecraft function like your concept of shared bicycles or cars. When you need one, you take one. When you're done, you leave it for the next person. No one owns a personal spacecraft, there's no need. The system tracks usage to ensure fair access, but there's never conflict over it. The more Ami describes, the more Pedro realizes how alien this world is. Not in appearance, but in fundamental values and organization. Everything Earth considers normal, money, property, competition, hierarchy, is absent from Ophir. One aspect of Ophir particularly fascinates Pedro: the abundance of playgrounds. As consciousness evolves, Ami explains, beings gradually return to a childlike state, not childish, but childlike. Think about young children. They're curious about everything. They play freely. They don't judge. They live in the moment. They're open to wonder. As humans age on Earth, they lose these qualities, becoming serious, cynical, competitive, closed off. But on Ophir, as people mature spiritually, they reclaim that childlike openness and joy. So they become children again? They become wise beings with childlike hearts. They retain everything they've learned, all their knowledge and experience, but they approach life with playfulness and delight. They don't burden themselves with unnecessary seriousness. They understand that existence itself is meant to be enjoyed. That's why there are so many playgrounds? Exactly. Play is essential. Recreation, fun, laughter, these aren't frivolous wastes of time. They're expressions of joy, which is a high spiritual state. The happier and more playful a civilization, generally the more evolved it is. Pedro thinks about his own life: school, homework, rules, expectations, the constant pressure to achieve and succeed. We don't have much time to play on Earth. And that's part of your problem, Ami says gently. You've structured your civilization around anxiety and struggle. You've forgotten that life is meant to be celebrated. Despite all of Ophir's advantages, Ami mentions something that Earth possesses which is precious to the entire universe: unique art. Every civilization develops its own artistic expression, Ami explains. Music, visual art, literature, dance, these are universal forms of expression. But each civilization creates art in its own unique way, reflecting its distinct perspective and experience. What's special about Earth's art? Because humans can't read each other's minds, your art must be externalized. On Ophir and other advanced worlds, when someone has an artistic vision, everyone around them can perceive it directly through telepathy. If someone imagines a beautiful scene, others can see it in their mind. If someone composes music mentally, others can hear it. So they don't need to paint or write? They still create physical art, but it's not necessary for communication the way it is on Earth. Your art must be made tangible, painted on canvas, carved in stone, written in books, performed aloud. This necessity has created incredibly rich artistic traditions. Your isolation from each other's thoughts has forced you to develop external expression to an extraordinary degree. So our art is valuable to other civilizations? Extremely valuable. Earth's music, literature, visual arts, these are treasures from a unique perspective in the universe. Other civilizations study and appreciate Earth's art because it shows them ways of experiencing and expressing reality that they've never encountered. But their telepathic art can't be preserved? Not easily. When the creator stops thinking about it, it fades. Physical art endures. Earth's creations can be saved, studied, revisited, shared across generations without degradation. There's something profound about art that exists independent of its creator's mind. This revelation gives Pedro a new appreciation for humanity. Despite all their faults, despite being one of the least evolved civilizations in the galaxy, humans have created something unique and valuable. Their very limitation, mental isolation from each other, has produced an unexpected gift to the cosmos. Ami introduces Pedro to terminology that reframes everything he knows. Civilized and uncivilized worlds. The terms don't mean what Earth uses them for, Ami clarifies. A civilization isn't judged by its technology, its architecture, or its economic systems. A civilization is judged by one thing only: whether it meets 3 specific criteria. What criteria? First, understanding and following the fundamental law of the universe. Second, achieving planetary unity, one unified world rather than separate nations in conflict. Third, organizing society around the fundamental law at all levels, making it the foundation of all governance and social structure. And Earth doesn't meet these criteria? Earth fails all 3. You don't understand the fundamental law. Your world is divided into competing nations, and your societies are organized around power, money, and competition, rather than universal principles. By cosmic standards, Earth is uncivilized. This stings, but Pedro can't argue with the logic. Any world that remains uncivilized faces only 2 possible outcomes, Ami continues gravely. Either they never develop beyond a certain point, trapped forever on their home planet, or they destroy themselves. There is no third option. To join the greater cosmic community, to survive long-term, civilization is mandatory. How long do we have? That depends on your choices. But your technology has advanced to a dangerous level, while your consciousness remains primitive. This is a critical moment in Earth's history. You could evolve and survive, or you could self-destruct. The outcome isn't predetermined. It depends on enough humans choosing growth over destruction. This brings them to the most important concept in the entire book: the fundamental law of the universe. Ami tries repeatedly to explain it to Pedro, and even after extensive discussion, both Ami and Pedro acknowledge the boy doesn't fully grasp it. The concept is simple to state but profound, almost impossible to truly comprehend. The fundamental law is love, Ami says. Just that one word, love. But this isn't love as humans typically understand it. Ami describes love as the fundamental energy that composes all reality. Everything in existence, absolutely everything, is made of love, Ami explains. You are made of love. I am made of love. This spaceship is made of love. The light you see, the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, all composed of the same essential substance, love. But how can solid objects be made of love? Pedro protests. This ship is metal, not emotion. What modern physics is beginning to discover, Ami says, is that all matter is fundamentally energy vibrating at different frequencies. A rock appears solid because its vibrations are slow and dense. Light appears ethereal because its vibrations are fast and fine. Thought is even finer, vibrating at even higher frequencies. But it's all the same essential energy, vibrating at different rates. That energy is love. When the vibration is slow, it manifests as matter. When it's fast, it manifests as light. When it's faster still, it manifests as thought and consciousness. But the underlying substance is always the same. Pedro struggles with this. But I don't feel love when I touch a rock. That's because your consciousness isn't developed enough to perceive it, Ami says patiently. Think of it this way. A blind person doesn't see light, but light still exists. You can't perceive the love in all things because your awareness is limited. But as your consciousness evolves, you'll begin to sense it, the fundamental unity and interconnectedness of all existence. Advanced beings can feel this love everywhere? Yes, they don't just know it intellectually, they experience it directly. They feel the love in everything they perceive. This is why they seem to glow with light. The high vibration of their consciousness literally produces visible illumination. The more conscious you are, the more you perceive and embody love, and the more you radiate light. Is God made of love too? Ami pauses. God isn't made of love, God is love. The universe isn't God's creation, it's God's self-expression. When we say God created everything, we don't mean God made things externally, like a craftsman building furniture. We mean God transformed into everything. The universe is God experiencing itself through infinite forms and perspectives. This concept makes Pedro's head spin, but he tries to follow. So what's the purpose of life? He asks. Why are we here? To experience love, Ami responds. That's the purpose of existence, to feel, to experience, to appreciate the love that constitutes everything. God, the ultimate source, the highest consciousness, constantly emanates love outward like a sun radiating light. The purpose of individual consciousnesses is to experience that love, to grow toward the source, to increase their awareness and appreciation of the fundamental unity of all things. The more conscious you become, the more you feel love in everything around you, the closer you move toward the source. Not physically closer, consciousness isn't located in space, but vibrationally closer, dimensionally closer. You begin to resonate at frequencies more similar to the ultimate consciousness. And that's what the beings on Ophir are doing? Yes. They've structured their entire civilization around experiencing and expressing love. That's why they live in natural beauty, why they play, why they help each other, why they pursue learning and art. Everything they do serves the purpose of experiencing and sharing love, thereby elevating their consciousness and moving closer to unity with the ultimate source. Pedro has an obvious question. If everything is made of love, why don't we feel it? Why does life often feel hard and painful? Ami's answer relates to consciousness and attention. You're surrounded by love constantly, but you don't notice it because you're not paying attention. Think about the ground beneath your feet. There are stones, soil, minerals, countless things surrounding you at all times. But you don't feel joy or love toward them because they seem ordinary. They're always there, so you take them for granted. Now imagine you found a rare, multicolored gemstone. You treasure it, admire it, feel delight holding it. But it's still just a stone, no different fundamentally from the rocks beneath your feet. The difference is in how you perceive it. One stone is common to you, so you ignore it. The other is rare to you, so you appreciate it. Or consider a person born blind who suddenly gains sight. They would find everything beautiful. The sky, the trees, people's faces, even ordinary objects. Everything would fill them with wonder and love because they're experiencing it for the first time. But most people walk through life barely seeing what's around them because it's familiar. Pedro begins to understand. So the love is there, but we're not aware of it? Exactly. Your consciousness is occupied by other concerns. Competition, grades, money, social status, worries about the future, regrets about the past. These concerns fill your awareness, leaving no space to perceive the extraordinary beauty and love present in every moment. If you could truly see, really see the grass beneath your feet, the air you breathe, the light touching your skin, you'd realize that every moment is filled with miracles. Every breath you take is a gift. Every sensation is a wonder. But your mind is too busy, too distracted by what Earth civilization has trained you to focus on. So awakening is about learning to notice what's already there? Yes. The person who can notice and appreciate the small, constant joys of existence, that person is happy. The person who takes everything for granted, who always wants something different or better, who can't appreciate what they have, that person suffers, even if they have material wealth. This is why highly conscious beings seem to radiate happiness. They've learned to perceive the love in all things. They don't need external validation or special circumstances to feel joy. They find it in simply existing, in experiencing whatever is present. Ami tells Pedro that humans possess 3 critical abilities, but they're ranked in importance differently than most people realize. The third most important ability is thinking, intellect, reason, problem-solving, what you call intelligence. Earth civilization values this above all else. You worship smart people, especially scientists and intellectuals. But thinking is actually the least important of the 3 abilities. The second most important ability is awareness, the capacity to perceive what's around you, to be conscious of your environment, to notice and experience your surroundings. This is more valuable than mere thinking because awareness connects you to reality, while thinking often disconnects you, trapping you in abstractions. The first and most important ability is the capacity to love, to feel, to connect, to appreciate, to care for others and for existence itself. This is the supreme human capability. Without love, intelligence becomes dangerous. A genius without compassion can create weapons of mass destruction, but a person filled with love, even if not intellectually brilliant, elevates everyone around them. Pedro thinks about how Earth's education system focuses almost entirely on developing thinking skills, memorization, problem-solving, mathematical ability. Very little attention goes to teaching awareness or love. Your civilization has it backwards, Ami confirms. You train children to be clever, but not to be conscious or caring. And then you wonder why intelligent people so often cause harm. As their journey nears its end, Ami brings Pedro back to Earth. They land on the same beach where they first met, which now seems like days ago, though only hours have passed. Will I see you again? Pedro asks. Possibly, Ami says. But whether or not we meet again in person, I'll always be with you in spirit. And you have work to do now. The book? Yes, write everything down, make it a story for children. Share what you've learned. Some will dismiss it as fantasy, which is fine. But others, those ready to hear, will understand. The message will reach those who need it. What if no one believes me? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you share the truth as you experienced it. The universe will ensure it reaches the right people at the right time. They say goodbye, and Ami's spacecraft rises silently into the night sky, disappearing among the stars. Pedro stands alone on the beach, but everything has changed. The sand beneath his feet, the waves rolling onto shore, the salt air. All of it feels different now. Sacred, precious, made of love. He picks up a stone and really looks at it for the first time, seeing not just a rock, but a miracle of existence, billions of years old, composed of the same fundamental energy as everything else in the universe. The stone doesn't seem ordinary anymore. Walking back to his grandmother's house, Pedro notices things he's never truly seen before. The way moonlight reflects on water, the sound of night insects, the feeling of cool air against his skin. Everything is beautiful. Everything is worthy of appreciation. He realizes this is what Ami meant about consciousness. It's not about acquiring new things or going to exotic places. It's about learning to truly perceive what's already present, what has always been present, the love underlying all existence. While the book ostensibly ends with Pedro's return to normal life, its implications continue to unfold in the reader's mind. The story presents a cosmology where consciousness is the fundamental quality determining a civilization's fate. Technology without wisdom leads to destruction. Wisdom without technology leads to stagnation. Both must develop in harmony. Earth stands at a critical juncture. We've developed destructive capabilities, nuclear weapons, environmental exploitation, biological warfare, while our collective consciousness remains primitive. We're tribal, competitive, violent. We divide ourselves into nations and fight over resources and ideologies. According to Ami's framework, this situation cannot persist indefinitely. Either humanity will elevate its consciousness, learning to cooperate, to value all life, to organize society around love rather than power, or we'll destroy ourselves. There's no middle path. Uncivilized worlds either evolve or perish. The book suggests that help is available. Advanced civilizations watch us, send messages, provide subtle guidance. But they cannot and will not force our development. The choice must be ours. Interference would rob us of the growth that comes through struggle and decision. Some humans receive telepathic transmissions, ideas, inspirations, visions that seem to come from beyond themselves. Artists, visionaries, spiritual teachers, these individuals channel higher consciousness into forms that can influence human development. But each person interprets these transmissions through their own cultural and psychological framework. A Christian might believe God spoke to them. A scientist might call it intuition. A mystic might recognize it as contact with higher dimensions. The interpretation doesn't matter. What matters is whether the message inspires growth toward love, unity, and consciousness. Ami insisted this story be written as children's literature, and this choice itself contains wisdom. Adults approach information with heavy skepticism, pre-existing beliefs, and defensive psychological structures. Present these ideas to an adult audience as nonfiction, and most will dismiss them immediately. They'll demand proof, attack logical inconsistencies, mock the presumption of knowledge about alien civilizations. But frame the same ideas as a children's story, and something different happens. Adults can engage with the concepts without feeling threatened. It's just a kid's book, they'll say, allowing themselves to consider ideas they'd reject if presented as literal truth. Children, meanwhile, encounter these concepts with open minds, not yet hardened into rigid belief systems. The ideas plant seeds that might blossom years or decades later. It's a method of transmission that bypasses intellectual defenses, carrying profound philosophy in the unassuming package of juvenile fiction. Throughout the story, Ami uses his device to measure consciousness levels, but he refuses to tell Pedro his own score. This illustrates an important principle. Knowing your spiritual status would corrupt your development. If told your consciousness is highly developed, you'd become proud, and pride itself lowers consciousness. If told your level is low, you'd become discouraged and might abandon efforts to improve. This applies beyond the story. Anyone claiming to know their exact spiritual status or claiming to be especially enlightened probably isn't. True wisdom includes humility. The most conscious beings don't think about their own advancement. They simply live authentically, serve others, and appreciate existence. The journey toward higher consciousness isn't a competition with rankings and scores. It's a personal evolution that happens through genuine practice, loving more deeply, noticing more carefully, helping more generously, judging less harshly. The story's deepest teaching might be about perception itself. Pedro's journey doesn't give him new possessions or special powers. He returns to the same beach, the same house, the same life. But everything has changed because he sees differently. The rocks are still rocks, but now they're miraculous. The air is still air, but now it's precious. His ordinary life remains ordinary in its content, but becomes extraordinary through transformed perception. This suggests that happiness, fulfillment, and spiritual advancement don't require external changes. You don't need to acquire anything or go anywhere special. You need to wake up to the wonder of what's already present. A rock you've seen 1,000 times can suddenly become fascinating if you really look at it. Consider its age, its atomic structure, the forces that created it, its unique existence as this particular configuration of matter. Everything becomes interesting, beautiful, worthy of appreciation when you actually pay attention. Whether Enrique Barrios truly met an extraterrestrial or created this story from imagination, his intent seems clear. To present a philosophy of love as the fundamental organizing principle of existence, disguised as a children's adventure story. The book advocates for consciousness is more important than intelligence, cooperation rather than competition, unity rather than division, love rather than fear, awareness rather than distraction, service rather than selfishness, play rather than excessive seriousness, natural living rather than urban congestion, direct experience rather than secondhand knowledge. These aren't alien concepts. They're values that humans have articulated throughout history in various spiritual and philosophical traditions. Ami's message resonates with Buddhism's emphasis on mindfulness, Christianity's teaching to love one another, indigenous wisdom about living in harmony with nature, and modern psychology's findings about well-being. By presenting these timeless principles as revelations from an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, the book bypasses religious and cultural boundaries. A Christian might reject Buddhist teachings, and a scientist might dismiss religious doctrine, but both might consider ideas from a fictional alien more openly. The book ends without resolution for humanity. Earth's fate remains undetermined. We're still an uncivilized world teetering on the edge of either evolution or extinction. Ami suggests that the outcome depends on individual choices multiplied across billions of people. Each person who chooses consciousness over unconsciousness, love over fear, cooperation over competition, each such choice nudges humanity's trajectory slightly towards survival. No single person can save the world, but each person's consciousness contributes to the collective consciousness. As more individuals wake up, appreciate existence, treat others with kindness, and live authentically, the aggregate human consciousness rises. It's not about grand gestures or revolutionary actions. It's about millions of people making small daily choices to be more aware, more caring, more present. These micro-choices compound over time, potentially shifting civilization's direction. Ami, Child of the Stars, presents itself as a simple tale of a boy meeting an alien, but unfolds into a comprehensive philosophy of existence. Whether taken as fiction, allegory, or supposedly genuine account of extraterrestrial contact, its core message remains consistent. Consciousness and love are the fundamental qualities that determine both individual happiness and civilizational survival. The book challenges readers to examine their assumptions about intelligence, progress, success, and purpose. It suggests that humanity's current path, prioritizing technology over wisdom, competition over cooperation, material acquisition over spiritual development, leads inevitably to catastrophe. But it also offers hope. We're not alone in the universe. Help exists, though it must be subtle. The path forward is available to anyone willing to take it. Pay attention, appreciate what's present, love more deeply, judge less harshly, serve others genuinely. Whether you believe Pedro truly met Ami or Enrique Barrios crafted an elaborate teaching story doesn't ultimately matter. The ideas themselves stand on their merit. The question isn't, is this really true? But rather, what if it is? And how would I live differently if I took these principles seriously? The book invites each reader to become a conscious participant in humanity's evolution. One moment of awareness, one act of kindness, one breath of appreciation at a time. And perhaps that's the real alien wisdom. That transformation begins not with grand external changes, but with simple internal shifts in how we perceive and engage with the miracle of existence that surrounds us constantly, waiting only to be noticed and loved.